My name is Ondrej, and here is how to build anything with DeepSeek R1. Now, OpenAI is in trouble because DeepSeek R1 is an open source AI model that's just as powerful as O1. And OpenAI O1 was released only 46 days ago, which means the progress in AI is speeding up fast. So in this video, I'll show you how to build anything with DeepSeek R1, even if you aren't a programmer. Real quick, I'm hiring a full stack developer with lots of front-end and design experience to help me build Vectal. So if that's you, make sure to apply. The link is going to be below. Now here is how DeepSeek R1 compares to OpenAI O1. Now as you can see, these models are very close, but the main takeaway is that this model comes just a month and a half after OpenAI released theirs. And it's not like this is just DeepSeek's benchmarks. This guy on Twitter created his own eval where DeepSeek R1 destroyed all other models. That's not all. This is just the beginning because DeepSeek, the company, they're insane. They also dropped 6 small models, which are distilled versions of R1, ranging from 70 billion all the way down to 1.5 billion, which you could technically run on your phone. So if you want me to make a video on these DeepSeek models and how to run them locally on your machine, make sure to subscribe. Now what about the cost? Well, let's compare it to OpenAI O1. For O1, input tokens cost $15 per 1 million. For output, it costs $60 per million tokens. So O1 is a very expensive model. DeepSeek R1, on the other hand, costs $0.50, 55 cents per million input tokens. And when it comes to output, it's $2.2 per million tokens. This means that DeepSeek R1 is roughly 27 times cheaper than O1 at the same level of performance. This is just insane. And not only that, we can also see inside of the model's reasoning. This is the first super powerful reasoning model that lets us actually see the chain of thought. We can see that it thought for 101 seconds, and we can see the mistakes it made, and so on. OpenAI, of course, doesn't show any of that. Even though you're paying for the reasoning tokens, you cannot see them if you're using O1 or O1 Mini. There is just something magical about seeing the model think through a problem just like a human would. Now, how did DeepSeek do this? Like, how did they pull this off? Well, they spent less time on safety. Instead of wasting 3 to 6 months like OpenAI, they just ship. Also, they have an absolutely crack team. And a big part of that is because China has one of the highest average IQs in the world. And also, they're trying novel approaches, such as DeepSeek R1 0. In this case, 0 means for no supervised training data. So instead of the model learning from human-labeled examples, it starts from scratch, aka from 0, only using reinforcement learning. By the way, this is the same as AlphaZero that mastered the game of Go in that wonderful documentary from Google DeepMind. Now, what's truly amazing is that this purely reinforcement learning approach resulted in increasing thinking time without anybody telling this to the model. The model figured out on its own that if it spent more time on thinking and reasoning, it will have better outcomes. This is a clear example of emergent property. Now, this was just one of many aha moments this model has created. During this phase, DeepSeek learns to allocate more thinking time to a problem by re-evaluating its initial approach. It underscores the power and beauty of reinforcement learning. Rather than explicitly teaching the model on how to solve a problem, we simply provide it with the right incentives, and it autonomously develops advanced problem-solving strategies. Now you might be thinking, but David, how is this good for people like us? Well, models like DeepSeek R1 make it possible for people like you and me to actually compete with massive companies like OpenAI or Google. For example, OpenAI recently announced ChatGPT Tasks, which is a direct competitor to my startup, vectal.ai. And if you know anything about OpenAI and Sam Altman, they like to destroy startups, which is why I think the analogy of David versus Goliath is perfect here. I mean, my name is literally David, and OpenAI is a $200 billion Goliath with infinite funding, backed by Microsoft, thousands of employees, hundreds and millions of monthly active users, and I'm a solo developer, which makes competing with them almost impossible. However, OpenAI cannot add DeepSeek models into their products, but I can, and I will. Which means DeepSeek R1 is coming soon to vectal.ai. Now, I think Jim Fan said it the best. We are living in a timeline when a non-US company is keeping the original mission of OpenAI alive. Truly open frontier research that empowers all of us. It makes no sense, and as Elon often says, the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. With that being said, let's get to building. Alright, so the first thing we have to do is go to DeepSeek platform and create an account. I'm gonna link this in the description, that way it's easier for you. But in here you can either use email and password or just Google. Boom, once you log in, it should look something like this. Now, if this is your first time using DeepSeek, you will obviously have $0 right here. In that case, go to top up and charge up $2. I don't really think you need to go any higher than that because of how insanely cheap the models are. So even $2, this will last you for weeks. It's crazy, right? So once you charge up, go to API keys, and we need to create a new API key. Now, actually, before we do that, let's create an empty project inside of Cursor. So boom, there is Cursor. Let's create an empty Python file called DeepSeek R1.py. Okay, this is funny. DeepSeek is actually recommending some Chinese characters for me. Definitely don't need to do that. If you don't know how to use Cursor or how to set up an empty project, just ask Vectal or ChatGPT and they will give you the step-by-step instructions. All right, so now that we've done that, we have to go to the DeepSeek docs. And again, I'll link this below in the video. But basically, we need this API call. And in here, we want to find DeepSeek Reasoner right here. This is the new reasoning model, and this is the name in the API. Let's click on this specific link. That way, we're looking at the documentation created specifically for this model. So first we need to install OpenAI. Okay, so let's go back into Cursor and let's open the terminal. You can do that Command J, or you can go up terminal and new terminal. And in here we should run this command. Now, before we do that, it's good to first select the environment you want to use. So I'm going to use test, which is my test environment. Again, if you don't know anything about Conda environments, just ask, how do I set up Conda? Now, the advantage of using Vectal for this is that it knows all of your active tasks. It knows everything you're working on. So it has that essential context and it can help you complete those tasks. Anyways, once you activate the project you want, let's simply copy this. Boom, pip install update OpenAI. All right, so I've already have it installed. Next, we need to decide on our API parameters. And actually we can probably do that after we copy their code. So documentation is actually your friend. The common misconception among beginners is that documentation is only for programmers. Actually, the more beginner you are, the more you should be using documentation because it literally tells you the right syntax. But anyways, let's look at this, right? Might be overwhelming. Let's look at it one step at a time. So I'll break this down into stages so that you don't have to worry, right? So here we import, man, these Chinese tokens are so funny. We import the OpenAI package and then we initialize the client with the API key. But as you can see, the API key is wrong here. It's empty, right? So we need to go back to the DeepSeek platform and generate a new one. So click on create new API key. I'm going to name it vectal.ai, create new API key, copy, switch, but I make sure to never share your API keys. I will delete mine before uploading the video. Okay, so save the file. So now we've put in the correct API key and we have the correct URL here. The next step is to define our messages array. How should an individual prepare himself for the post-AGI world and society? What are the highest leverage actions one can take in the years leading up to AGI? Okay, this is a really interesting question, I think. Then we send the message to the DeepSeek Reasoner model, to the DeepSeek API. Okay, so as you can see, we construct the message list and then we pass it as the prompt and we make sure you set the model as the DeepSeek Reasoner because otherwise it will default to the DeepSeek V3 model, which is still really powerful, but nowhere near as powerful as the R1 model. So Reasoner is R1, just for clarity, right? Let's copy all of this and I'm going to utilize the cursor agent. So let me do Command L, boom, composer. I'm going to say update DeepSeek R1 by adding more parameters. Okay, boom, here's the documentation. Above is the official docs. Follow it. And actually I put in, I need to switch to agent. We want to use AI agents, right? Okay, so obviously this is a simple task, so even the normal composer could do it, but let's see. So yeah, this is something that can happen with composer, especially cursor agent. It does more than you ask it to, right? So as you can see, it added a bunch of stuff. Okay, I'm just gonna reject everything and just add max tokens manually. So if we don't want it to take forever, let's make it like 2048 or maybe even 1024, right? Now what's interesting is that this only affects the final response. For the reasoning, there's going to be a new parameter, which is coming soon, called reasoning effort. And this can be up to 32,000 tokens. So realistically, most of the time, when the model is responding, is going to be in the reasoning part, not in the actual final response. So yeah, we cannot control that right now, but that's fine. Okay, so let's see. We send the message and then we get the first and then rounds two. Okay, so this is just a second example. So let's try with this first example, right? Let's check my Vectal. Okay, empty project, streaming. All right, so we're gonna set this up in a bit, but let's parse the response, okay? And click on run. Do we run into any errors or not? Yeah, this is the disadvantage of not having token streaming. You're just like completely in the blind, right? For example, if I open up terminal, I'm gonna give you a little sneak peek into the future video. And if I run olama run DeepSeek R1 70B. By the way, I'm running this locally on my MacBook. So again, if you want me to make a tutorial on that, how to run these distilled DeepSeek R1 models, the smaller ones, on your machine or your computer, make sure to subscribe and comment below. So if I say what is bigger, 9.9 or 9.11, we should see the reasoning tokens in here because Ollama is going to be streaming them. Now, hopefully my laptop doesn't overheat because I'm recording and I'm hosting a super powerful model locally, but let's see. Okay, so we didn't get the response? I don't think we printed the response. So yeah, boom, this is what it looks like. It does the think block, and then these are the reasoning tokens. So determine, like this is fascinating. You can see how the model is thinking about this. To determine which number is larger, I first consider the decimal places. Very clever. All right, anyways, we don't have to go through this example, but let's update our code. So we actually don't print this out. This is crazy. You know what? Let's just implement token streaming right away. I want to see the tokens being streamed. That's the fascinating part. So let's scroll down and then let's look at our examples. So I'm going to copy this, go into cursor. I'm going to paste this in. This is a good practice, by the way. Make sure to give cursor the current documentation because even though it's using the Sonnet 3.5 model, or even if you're using the DeepSeek model, it still doesn't have access to the internet unless you give it that tool access, right? So, okay, I'm going to say update our code in DeepSeek to ensure we actually use token streaming and we print out the response as it's being streamed. So honestly, in 2025, you don't have to write any lines of code. You can just speak to the models in English or in Mandarin for that matter, and they will write the code for you. Okay, so let's see. All right, so lots of changes. Wow, 57 new lines of code. Let's go through them at a time. So, okay, at the top, it's deleting an empty line. Okay, accept that, importing system. Not sure why though. Then it sets up, what do you mean? It's literally our prompt. Anyways, for streaming, it puts this parameter stream equals true. And also it adds some extra print statements for better communication or better, response inside of the terminal. Then it initializes empty strings to connect the full response. Let's accept that. But this is a good practice, just instead of accepting it all, which sometimes, you can just full send it and see what happens. If it's production code and, if it's important code, just go one by one and see. So for chunk and response, then it prints out the chunks nicely. Let's do that. All right, so now we have token streaming implemented and we actually have more feedback in the console. So let's run this again. Reasoning process, boom, there it is. Look how much faster it is when it's running on the DeepSeek platform than my MacBook, right? So yeah, this is the advantage of hosting models on the web, but I'm actually curious in this response. You know what? I'm gonna say, instead of printing into the console, okay, I don't know if that's possible, but yeah, whatever. Okay, this is bad. So the final answer is being printed with final answer before every time. Okay, that's bad. Okay, so now what you can do in cursor, you can just put add to composer and you can say the reasoning part was shown correctly. I mean the token streaming. However, for the final answer, you messed up and showed final answer before every single token. Fix this. Okay, so it's trying to add some booleans in here. Let's see if this is good. I'm more interested in seeing the reasoning process, to be honest. So let's see. Okay, so preparing for a post-AGI world requires strategic focus on high leverage actions to enhance adaptability, resilience, and unique human strengths. Here is a structured approach. Cultivate adaptability and lifelong learning. Skill development. Focus on meta-learning skills. Wow, this is actually good, guys. Listen up. This is good. Prioritize learning agility over static knowledge. I definitely agree with that. Basic AI understanding, learn foundational concept. I mean, this is actually really good advice. Like basic AI understanding, learning the fundamental concepts of AI, that's what everybody should do. And actually, if you're serious about AI, then make sure to join the new society because inside we have tons of exclusive content, trainings, workshops on how to build AI agents, how to master prompt engineering, and anything else you might need to succeed in the post-AGI world. In fact, we actually have how to prepare for AGI as well. So if you are serious about AI and you want to be ahead of 99% of people, make sure to join the new society. It's going to be linked below. All right, so now let me show you how to turn this into a team of agents because they actually support multi-round conversations in the documentation. So in each round of the conversation, the model outputs the COT, which stands for chain of thought, reasoning context into this variable, and the final answer into content. Okay, so What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. Yeah, they don't build this into a team of multiple agents, so we have to do that ourselves. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it into cursor agent as always. And I'm going to say, okay, now let's add a second AI agent that builds on top of the output of the first one. Above is the official documentation from DeepSeek, so you know how to do it. And we can explicitly say that the content variable should be included. So make sure to include the content variable in the prompt of the second AI agent, from the output of the first AI agent in the prompt of the second one. All right, let's see if cursor can do this on its own, because right now we only have one, right? But the real power is connecting them into multiple AI agents. That's where you can build teams of agents, and especially given the costs are so cheap. Like, you can just have a team of agents running in the background, and even if like 9 out of 10 times it's useless, it doesn't matter, because even that 1 out of 10 will be worth it, given how cheap these models are. I mean, 27 times cheaper than O1. Same level of performance, even better on some benchmarks. Like, it's hard to fathom just how powerful this is. Like, imagine if phones suddenly got 27 times cheaper. It would be worldwide news everywhere, but with AI, nobody seems to care. I don't know. maybe we are the crazy ones. Okay, so I don't know why it's adding this, but it's a harmless change. So, okay, this is the second AI agent. So here it constructs a more elaborate... Okay, so it actually does a message history like this. Okay, so user, this is interesting. So user asks, how should an individual prepare for... Yeah, that's my prompt. And then the response from assistant, and then the user asks a follow-up. Based on the previous answer, what specific skills? Okay, so maybe I should say, what should be 3 specific actions I can take today? All right, let's see what DeepSeek R1 thinks, how we should prepare for AGI. So then the second guy is reasoning as well. Yeah, I think this looks good. So actually, let's change the prompt. Think about what a post-AGI society might look like. What will be important and what will be irrelevant? What will the super intelligent AI replace? And what will humans still be doing? Focus on the years right after AGI is created. Okay, and then for the second prompt, we'll say, based on your previous answer, how should a person who wants to prepare himself for the post-AGI world spend his time in the day-to-day life in the years leading up to AGI? Okay, this should be interesting. Okay, so AGI, it's going to be massive automation, job displacement, yes, of course. High-level actions are those that give the most benefit for the effort. Okay, so final answer. Preparing for a post-AGI world requires strategic focus on adaptability. So this is basically similar to what we've seen. I'm interested in what the second AI agent thinks. Second AI agent, there it is. Okay, so the user is asking for a day-to-day plan based on the previous high-level strategies. They want practical steps someone can take. 30 minutes a day in AI literacy. 30 minutes a day watching David Ondrej videos. All right, weekly activities could be scenario planning, attending webinars, okay. Use AI tools to enhance productivity, such as Vectal. I mean, if it knew about Vectal, it would surely recommend it. Maybe I should ask it how to develop Vectal. Okay, that's actually not a bad idea. Using DeepSeek R1 to help me put DeepSeek R1 into Vectal. I'm definitely going to do that. I really want to add it into the Vectal chat because it's going to make Vectal super powerful. And I will do whatever it takes to make Vectal the most agentic AI tool in the world. It will have the most AI agents running and working for you out of any tool. Right now, I would say Perplexity is number 1 because when you do a web search, it triggers multiple AI agents. But that's still kind of low. I mean, as I said, you can have AI agents running always. Like at all the tasks in your list, there should be AI agent working at all times trying to compete it. And I'm going to make that happen. So if you don't have Vectal AI, you're missing out. All right, so yeah, I think this is pretty solid. Okay, let's see. Wow, this is a pretty good response. We have a actual schedule here for a daily update. So morning mindfulness, read AI news, creative practice, work, lunch, listen to podcasts on AGI, such as Lex Friedman, work strategic session, skill building, exercise, family call, reflect. Okay, so this is pretty safe plan. Maybe if we asked it for a more aggressive plan, that would be interesting. But yeah, now you know how to build AI agents with DeepSeek R1, and you can turn this into any app. Like, just have a bit of imagination, okay? Think, what are the implications of it? We have O1, not only open source O1, but 27 times cheaper O1. Many millionaires will be created from AI in 2025. The question is, do you want to be one of them or not? If so, take action. Do not postpone it and start building. It has never been easier to create an AI startup. I'm documenting every single change I'm doing in my own AI startup inside of the new society. And I think this is actually probably the only place on earth where you can see an AI startup being built from scratch and how I'm figuring this out. I don't think there's anyone else who've built an entire startup and deployed it to the public and scaled it to 100+ paying users just using AI. I mean, I literally knew nothing at the start. I've never made any AI startup before, and I've been able to do it just by using AI tools. So if you do make that decision to be in the category of people that do want to actually make something happen with AI, New Society is a great resource for you to get started, because I'm showing everything it takes to build an AI startup so that you don't have to make the same mistakes as I did. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. And if you watch until the end, you are one of the rare individuals that actually value their time and are like to be hyper productive. And I really do believe that Vectal is going to be for you, especially with this new feature that I just added, which is notes. Notes are basically anything else that isn't a task. It could be a random idea, a reminder, a quote, a thought, anything you want to write down and remember. And the best part is Vectal automatically sorts each new item you create. So you don't have to think about it. You just press Q and you enter the name. And if it's an actionable task, it will go into your task list. If it's a note, it will go into your notes timeline. And this is the first step towards making Vectal a full stack productivity app, going beyond just a to-do list. So if you want to experience the future of productivity, go to vectal.ai and give it a shot. I promise you won't be disappointed. With that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I wish you a wonderful, productive week. See ya.